Hey everyone, this is Tomcat here with a review of greatest heavyweights for the Sega Genesis. Normally I wouldn't do this kind of content. I tend to prefer to be behind a keyboard than a mic, but I was doing the Game of the Month post that I usually do, and couldn't really find any decent reviews of this game. There were like Let's Play videos, really long, like hour-long sort of reviews. And there were reviews that were shorter, but looked like they were ripped from a VHS tape or something. So I don't really like that. I like my reviews to be kind of short and to the point, and at least have reasonably decent production values. So I could have complained, but figured I would just be the change I wanted to see and make a review of this game. So, Greatest Heavyweights Boxing is a sequel to Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing, also for the Sega Genesis. And if you played that game, you'll be in familiar territory here. But if you haven't, you got a couple of options here. You've got exhibition mode where you can just pick two boxers, and you got a lot of classic greats. You got Muhammad Ali, you got Joe Louis, Jack Dempsey, a bunch of others. Holyfield, of course, he's still licensed on it. And the meat and potatoes of this game, though, is in the career mode, and that's mostly what I'll be showing you here in this video. You can see that I'm creating a boxer now in the video, and it kind of breaks down. You can name them, you can choose your head, body, skin color, so on and so forth. The body size you pick actually does seem to have some effect on the gameplay with regard to whether or not your character is kind of an outboxer or an inboxer. Seems like you pick a shorter character, they're better at things like uppercuts and hooks, whereas, a taller boxer's got better range. But let's get into the mechanics a bit on this. The video is just going to play here. I'm not necessarily going to talk in sync with what's going on screen, but I want to talk a bit about the mechanics of the game and give you an idea of what goes on here. The gameplay, a lot of people think of probably Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out when you think about boxing games in the 8 and 16-bit era. That's more of an arcade style thing, memorization, pattern stuff. This is actually more like a boxing simulation. And it is probably the best boxing game I've seen up until the PS2 era with games like Fight Night. It's a really technical game, but it's also really fast-paced and really enjoyable. I feel like it's got a lot going on in terms of being similar to a fighting game with the footsies mechanics and, positioning and stuff. Like, you only have a couple of different moves. You got a jab, a hook, an uppercut. You can aim for the body or you can aim high. But the way you play the game has, the way you attack and dodge and everything, there's kind of an action, counter-reaction kind of gameplay going on. And like, for example, if you attack high, you jab, you hook, whatever, it'll usually get blocked. Whereas if you go for the body, it'll force your opponent's head down, which can lead in for an uppercut, and you get a powerful hit there. But you're also leaving yourself vulnerable to a hit. And for example, if you just kind of swing wildly, your opponent will usually block and then counter, and you'll actually end up taking a lot of damage that way. And you see here in the gameplay footage going on in the background, just hit a knockdown there. But this is kind of slow. This is early gameplay. You're not going to see a lot of the high-level technical stuff that I'm talking about here. So in a moment, we'll go ahead and skip ahead to a higher-level fight. But just wanted to see some background footage there of the play. And I really like what goes on here. There's a lot of detail here. You get like this newspaper article, it shows up after you win or lose a fight that shows how it went. You get a breakdown here where you can choose your different training items, I guess, and improve your stats between rounds in the career mode. Once you get to a high level, it's hard to keep all your stats high. So usually you'll be focused on one stat. If you lose, you can only pick two items here, and that makes it impossible to keep your stats max, so you definitely don't want to lose fights. I don't know if you can avoid that, I guess, sometimes, but, don't lose. But let's skip ahead to a high-level fight here, so I can talk about some of the more, like, what I'm talking about, the technical mechanics here. I mean, when I say this is boxing simulation, it's because it's not pattern-based. You do have a health bar, but it's more akin to stamina and catching your breath. You can see at the bottom, you got the energy, which is basically your active health, and you got the body and you got the head there. If you take low blows, hits to the body, you'll lose stamina on the body. And if you take hits to the head, you'll lose stamina on the head. And over time, it actually reduces your maximum health and makes you take more damage to those specific body parts over the fight. So taking a lot of damage to one area will actually, it'll make it easier for you to lose. And in fact, if you take a lot of hits to the head, you can even get split open, which seems to make you take more damage. Your boxer will start bleeding either on the lip or over the eye or something. And you see here too, this is actually a three-dimensional ring. The gameplay is on a 2D playing field, but it's sort of a pseudo 3D thing. And you can see my boxer there is actually kind of trapped against the ropes, and that's a really dangerous position to be in this kind of game. But I really, really like the effect here. I mean, they made this sort of 3D, and I don't really know how they pulled it off, but I feel like the effect is excellent. I really, really enjoy it because the positioning matters, and like I said earlier, it's a lot like a simplified fighting game. I mean, with the limited pool of moves you can do, you're not going to see like special moves or finishers or anything like in an arcade game or, something like Super Punch-Out or like Ready to Rumble Boxing. But what you have is just really, really straightforward core mechanics that you use to, block, counter, throw in some combos. If you hit a guy 4 times in a row, it knocks their head back and does additional damage. That indicates you hit a combo. And you'll see, you kind of have to figure out the patterns of the people that you're fighting. Every boxer is a little bit different. This guy that I'm fighting now that you're watching in the video footage, you see he kind of likes to go for the body and then uppercut. And that's kind of hard to counter. But, you can knock his head back a bit, push him back. But if you get this is the kind of, pattern here where if you get caught on the ropes, you're in trouble and you're probably going to get knocked out. And so you kind of have to position yourself to avoid getting hit and just, set up attacks, but, not get greedy because, if you rush in, like I said, it's very similar to a fighting game, and the mechanics do feel pretty technical. I've really enjoyed playing this for the duration. Now, one thing I want to talk about, too, is the stuff that's going on in the background and just the animations and everything. There's a lot of detail that went into this game with the crowd, the sound effects, just everything just feels really polished here. And I did mention this is a sequel to Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing. That game was good, and I actually owned that one back when I was younger, and that was a pretty good game. If you've played that and then you play this, you'll never want to play that game again. Like, this is Real Deal Boxing, but just much faster, better animations, just tighter gameplay. Just everything about this screams polish. I mean, Sega's known for their sports games in the 16-bit era, and this, obviously, sports games are a dime a dozen on the platform, but I don't think good boxing games have really been much of a thing. This feels really unique because it's not an annual release, it was a kind of a one-off game, and it just feels like a lot went into making it just really, really good. Sound-wise, the game's okay. I'm not going to pretend the sound effects are amazing. Genesis isn't exactly known for having the best audio. But everything's there. I feel like they made really good use of the digitized voice samples and just, they did a good job with that part of things. But really, the core things here, the core gameplay is excellent. The animations are fantastic. I just feel like this is really worth playing, and it's kind of a shame that, it doesn't seem like this game got a lot of interest. I've rarely seen stuff about it online. It's never going to make one of your, top 20 or 25, Sega Genesis games. Sports titles usually don't hit those lists, and that's understandable, but this is a really good game. I feel like this is, one of those core library games for the Sega Genesis. One of those games I think everybody should play. If you like sports games, if you like boxing, I'd say definitely play this. If you enjoy the technicalities of fighting games, I'd say this is definitely something you should check out. It's not a fighting game, obviously, but it shares a lot of similarities, and has kind of that feel to it. If your kind of game is more to just sit down with an RPG, something slower paced, you know, not actiony or whatever, maybe this isn't a game for you, but I'd say check it out anyway. I mean, as I said, this is excellent. It's polished. I feel like this is one of those games that really shows off what the Genesis can do. You know what I mean? This is one of those games I don't feel would have played as well on the Super Nintendo, for example, with the Super Nintendo's slower processor. I just feel like this is one of those games that really takes advantage of what the Sega Genesis can do. And it's just really fun to play. I think everybody should check it out. So I hope this video was informative. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you've found this on YouTube, be sure to look at the description and check out the Game of the Month feature that I hold monthly over at Reddit. And if you're coming here from Reddit, I appreciate you checking it out. Thanks for watching.